right, hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be preparing a go-to for easy on-the-go breakfast, or really a snack anytime. I probably shouldn't have said snack. I try to refrain from that. It's just getting some good nourishment into you. So this recipe is called low-carb cheesy bacon bites. It's really simple to assemble, especially if you've pre-cooked your bacon, pre-grated your cheese, which I have not done, but I want to teach you a little something about cheese. And if you've got your cream cheese already softened, which it should be room temperature, and your butter melted. Say that easy, fast time. All right, so I'm going to do all of these different ingredients, and we have a part of this recipe is to cool the batter. So I'm not going to preheat my little air fryer oven. I'll do that after I prepare everything. Alrighty, so we are going to start with melting some butter. Now, I'm sure you have seen all these little, and some of you are way above my pay grade in chefing and cooking, but just in case, I thought I'd take some time to really just explain some basics, maybe for people that are just starting to cook. So you'll see on your butter, all these different lines, each one is for a tablespoon. We have 4.5 tablespoons. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4. So cut between the 4 and the 5 on here. And then we're gonna melt that. Now you might think to just go ahead and melt the whole thing in one blob, but I find it's easier if you cut it into smaller chunks to melt it in the microwave. I'm using a microwave because I live in this century, okay? So we're gonna go like this, come along here, put these guys in. I have learned that when I'm heating things up, if I use a bowl that I have to then touch after being in said microwave, it's very hot. So I'm using one with a little loop, little thumb finger hold. There's 2. There's no precision to this. Just try to get them same size-ish, okay? Just physics likes things like that. All right, so got those in. We'll put those in the microwave. I have also learned, don't do a full 30 seconds. Go in like 15-second increments. Otherwise, you might end up cleaning up more. Here, let's see if I can do that and talk. You'll end up cleaning up more butter than you'll be using. Ask me how I know. All right. I need to start getting a little trash can for all my goodies. This is fun. This is our 3rd video. I don't know if you've seen the other 2. Ooh, hold on. So let's see. Then I check in here. I believe, yeah. So check in there. We can see that it is still kind of solid. We want it melted, but not like steaming, okay? So I'm gonna check it after 15 seconds. But anyway, just a moment, let me get this through. All right, then we've got our room temperature, room temperature cream cheese. All right, let's see how we're looking here. All right, getting better. So I'm just gonna kind of swirl that around. And then we're probably just going to do about 5 seconds now. We'll just go. All right, count along with me. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's see what we've got. Perfect. Look at that. All right, cancel that bad boy. So we got our melted butter. We got coconut. Then we're going to add in our eggs. I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to check the consistency with 1 egg, and then I'm going to check it with 2. I'm kind of having a feeling the recipe from what I wrote down has 1 egg, but for some reason I'm feeling like that's not going to be enough. Salt and room temperature. Okay. So now same thing here on the cream cheese. You've got these little indicators. So I'm going to cut just one of those off. Now I know the really skilled knife people are probably cringing right now that I'm using a knife through this, but it's just what I have. All right, so we've got those 2 things. Let's bring you up here, actually. Get my space figured out. Okey-dokey. This isn't feeling like the most room temperature-y, but let's see if adding the melted butter will help that be a little bit better. So I'm gonna pour the melted butter over this. Let me double check. Melted butter, boop, doop, yeah. Okay, and let's see if that'll help. I don't like to waste butter, so I'm gonna get in here. Okay. It's okay. Probably should have let that be out a little bit longer. Learn from my mistake. All right. So we're mixing the wet ingredients first. Now I'm gonna put the egg in. Okay, whisk that up. Okay, trying to bring in that cream cheese. You know, I'm gonna make an executive decision here, and I'm going to melt that cream cheese just a little bit, but just like with the, oh, and if just in case I didn't bring it up yet, I am not a professional chef. I am a home chef. I'm gonna rinse this off because I have a feeling I'll just cook the egg. So here we go. I'm gonna just do 10 seconds on this. Ooh, less than that. Start spitting at me. Okay, and just a note, I am not using low-fat cream cheese. I'm using as much fat as possible cream cheese. Okay, there, that's much better. It's just a little more liquidy, and that's going to mix better. So learn from my mistake. Really make sure that you allow that cream cheese to come to room temperature. I think that's why it calls for room temperature. I was just rushing. Okay, so I'm going to whisk this together, and then we're going to add our salt. Now this is kind of, it still has little chunks, but it'll soften out even more once we put the dry ingredients in here. All right, so it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to kind of grate it in my hand, and then I'll look at about a 1/4 teaspoon. A little bit more. Again, we're not, I mean, we are technically baking today, but we're not baking with stuff that needs to rise and all those kind of things. I could get really particular, but I'm pretty sure there's about a 1/4 teaspoon space filled up by this much salt. So I'm going to call it good. Put that in there. Awesome. And now we'll mix one last time, and then we will add our dry ingredients. Okay, so we're going to add in the coconut flour. There we go, 1/3 of a cup of that. The neat thing about coconut flour is it expands quite a bit, and you want to pack it. So I'll just kind of, fill it up and then push against the side here. And then I want to feel some good resistance against my hand. And just kind of slide it off. There you go. Good packed. Nice. Okay. Mix that. Get that out of the way. Now it will absorb the water or the moisture in your pantry, so be sure you cut that off real tight. There we go. Crisis averted. I'm pretty sure it's baking powder I want, so I am going to use that. I hope y'all have a good sense of humor because, like I say, I am not a professional chef. Sometimes things go real smooth, other times they don't. But again, this is our 3rd video, so having to talk and put it all out together, it's a little different. But I promise, if you stick around by subscribing to our channel, I promise this will get a little smoother. All right, so here we go. Add our 1/4 teaspoon, and we will whisk this up. Yeah, that feels much better. This actually is the right consistency, so I am only going to use 1 egg, but I was prepared. Okay, so now for the fun part. I'm going to move that. I'm going to bring back our cutting board. Hello, Miha. Okay, and we get to use a whole pound of bacon. I am so excited. As you can tell, I love bacon. All right, let me start with 4. So I'm just going to chop this up. Usually when we cook it, we'll cut it in half because sometimes it's just easier for other recipes that we need. Plus, it's easier for just driving by the refrigerator and chomping on some. But I highly recommend if you cook your bacon ahead of time, put it in a pre-packaged, like in a container, and say, do not eat. Because if you want this for your recipe later, if you have little bacon gremlins like I do, and I'm looking at one, or you're looking at one, you're going to eat this ahead of time and then curse yourself when you go to make something. So learn from me. If nothing else, this entire video is called Learn From Me. Learn from my mistakes. All right, so there's one bit. It's going to take a little while, so we'll probably put a little hold in here unless I start talking about something. Of course, you can use like a food processor or something, but I don't know, there's something satisfying about the crunch of bacon. So I'm going old school and just using a knife. You could probably put it in a bag and just, beat it up with some sort of hard device if you like, kind of like you do with nuts. You do you. However you get your bacon crumbled, by all means, go for it. Okay. All right, so after this step, we're going to be cooling the batter, and then I will preheat the oven. So that thing makes a little noise. We're experimenting using our air fryer because we thought it'd be fun to be able to talk to people who maybe don't have the space, or maybe people who are cooking on the road, or people living in tiny homes who maybe don't have like a full-size oven, because we aspire to do that someday, possibly. We'll see. I think it'd be pretty amazing. All right, I'm just going to go for all this now. Getting impatient. Okay. Oh, look at that. That is a gorgeous amount of bacon. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Grab that. Okay, so now I'm going to fold that in. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to grate the cheese. I think that'll be a little better. One thing I often talk to my clients about is I understand the convenience of pre-shredded cheese. Totally get it, and I'm right there with you. I love convenience. The problem with that, if you're trying to follow a lower carb way of eating, and if you have maybe sensitivities to corn or possibly some other grains, when it's pre-shredded to prevent it from clumping, you know how it clumps if you just leave it sitting there? They put something like a dextrose, you'll see it there, and sometimes even other different products that are just powders, and that's to help coat the shreds of cheese. It's a great thing, it works well, but again, if you're trying to be lower carb, it's going to increase the carbohydrate amount in there, and if you have any sensitivities to things like corn, dextrose is from corn. So kind of not a great thing if you think about it. So just shred your own. Buy a big old block like this and go old school, or use your some sort of grater that you can put, like there's different implements. If you use one of those, God, what is it called? The food processor. See, my brain sometimes trying to do things and go through there. So hopefully you can giggle at that, because you're probably a midlife woman and you sometimes have total brain farts on very simple words. We'll talk about menopause another time. Come here anytime to talk about it. All right, so we're gonna come in here. We want about 8 ounces. So that's a good cup. Dun, dun, dun. Almost there. And like most things, I think err on the side of a little more. No problem with that. All right, now my hands are a little slippery because of all that bacon. Sure. A little bit more, because I like cheese. And this is really good cheese. Yeah, that's probably a good cup. Make sure you get as much of it out as you can. Cup. Okay. So let me demonstrate that clumping. Like you just, you would put that in there and it would be in the packages and everything, and then you would just get it like this. So putting that dextrose over it just helps it from clumping. It is non-nutritive, meaning it doesn't add anything good, but it could actually be adding something not so good. So use with caution. All right, so now for the fun part. Let's see here. Get my space figured out. We're going to fold in the bacon and the yummy, yummy cheese into this. All right, I love it. This is already coming to a good consistency. We'll go ahead and do that. Man, love it. Okay, put that in there. We don't waste bacon or cheese. Put that in there. Oh, and the dogs are going to be so happy. There will be kernels of bacon on this floor. All right, so we're going to fold that in. I don't think that's, well, this should work. Okay. So I don't know if you've ever watched Schitt's Creek, but I cannot hear fold the cheese in or fold anything in without thinking of that hilarious scene. If you have not watched Schitt's Creek, you totally have to. You'll be our people because we just can't help it. It's so off color most of the time. You just cannot help but giggle. It's hysterical. There's a reason they were renowned. All right, so let's make this a little bit more. This is looking really good, y'all. I'm excited. So as I mentioned before on this channel, this is like just a special side project. I'm a chiropractor, retired. I do a lot of work in the food space for metabolic health. I think that metabolic health is the most important thing you can really be focusing on, and it's something to master over a lifetime. So this channel, the entirety of it is all dedicated to that. And now being able to add in some of these recipes and cooking, I think it's just a lot more fun. And like I say, this will get a lot more streamlined in time. Coming in with us early is kind of fun to see something develop. Oh, that looks so good. Look at that camera, that looks good. All right, here we go. So we're gonna put this in the fridge for 20 minutes to let it get nice and cool so that I can form the balls. Although I'll tell you, it's probably just about right, but I'm gonna follow the directions. Back in 20. All right, so we've got this out of the fridge. I don't know why I covered it with that. I feel like that's what you do when you bake stuff, right? All right, so take my ring off here. Hands are clean. Actually, I'm gonna go clean them again. Okay, so now we are in business. So the recipe says I can create 40, and that's what I've done in the past. It's been a while since I've made this one. So I'm gonna chop it in half and just kind of separate this out. So there's 20 and 20, 10 and 10. I'm gonna use my judgment here, and I'm gonna do 5. So we'll do 20 total. So I'll do 5 from each of these little clumps. You can use spoons, but I'm just gonna use my hands because it's just more fun. Now it doesn't really ball up like by doing that, but you can just kind of pull it through here. And we're gonna start. They won't spread out too much like, you know, like typical baking. You're going to get things that take up more room after you've started baking them, but that won't happen so much here. Okay. Now the neat thing about these are really super convenient on the go kinds of little protein balls basically that you can eat, protein and fat, very low on the carbohydrates. So we like that. Okay, I think that 5 per little section is going to be perfect. So you'll see that, a little squeeze, and then roll it up. We should be able to get all of these on one cookie sheet. Here, I'm realizing I'm only going to end up with about 16. So I want this to be 4 servings. So instead of 4 servings of 5 little bites, we're going to do 4 servings of 4 because that's math, right? So we're going to call that good. And I just want to get this good nutrition into you in any way, shape, or form. And 16 is what's going to work out well for this particular recipe. I'm not going to waste that. A couple more. And you can really just go in here and just kind of use it and go boop, boop, boop. You got to make the noise, otherwise it doesn't count. All right, this one. A little bit more. Don't get greedy, Samantha. Go over here to this guy. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to remove this bowl, that last bit of bacon out. There we go. All right, move you. Okay. bring these guys together. Let's stagger them just a smidgen. And again, they're not going to really spread out much at all, if at all, but it just helps to give them a little room so they can get crisp on all sides. I'm going to flatten them just a bit because I find that if I have to flip them, that just works better. Because sometimes cooking in the air fryer, because the heat is much closer to the heating implement is closer, they cook a little differently than, say, a traditional or conventional oven. So we're going to go like that because we'll just make them easier to flip over if they're getting too brown on one side. All right, so here's what that looks like. Pretty happy with this. Into the oven. Now our timing says 14 to 16 minutes, so I'm going to start with 14. And we're going to keep our eyes on it, but mostly our nose on it, because I find that as things start to cook and they get that good smell, and they give you a hint they're getting cooked by how well they tickle your olfactory nerve. Hey, Belle. All right, checking. Oh, they're looking good. I don't need to open that. All right, starting to get a good little smell, but we still have plenty of time. I'm going to give it time. All right, so this went off. Let's see how it's looking. Oh, they look amazing. Look at that. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna let those cool for just a few moments and then I'll be right back. We'll put them on here and we'll serve ourselves up some with these freshly cut green onion stalks. We had prepared these for another meal, so they're already pre-cut. All right. Alrighty, we have had them cool down long enough. I'm gonna use my little pinchers here. I'm gonna take all these off. This is probably still hot. Yep. These look great. I wish you guys could smell them. All right, and then depending if you're making these ahead of time or if you're making them for your breakfast, look at all those extra good crispy ones over here too. If you're making them for your breakfast, then you want to plate some up, but then you want to also store them for later. One moment. Okay, so for anything you're going to eat right now, go ahead and transfer onto a plate. And in all honesty, I think that 2 of these is plenty for a bit of a meal, especially if it's your first meal when you're breaking your fast from overnight. It's a fair amount of nutrients, number one, and just a good amount to kind of get you going. But keep the other 2 for later on because you're going to wish you had them. So I'm going to put these 4 on here. Let me just show that off. Okay. And then just for some fun, for some color, you can put these guys on there. And there you go. Okay, so we're going to put that on. And then for storing them for later, just use whatever containers you have. I'm going to put 4 in here in a double layer so that it's just easier and you can just pull 2 out. I would recommend keeping these in the fridge if you just put them all together. But then you can actually have others in just little Ziploc bags that you can just keep reusing. I don't like to waste single-use plastic. I know it's a thing. That's why I much prefer these. But if you want to take it on the go, so these, if you're going to freeze them, take them out of the freezer the night before so that you can let them thaw in your fridge. And then to heat them up, I would just put them back. There we go. Put them back in the air fryer for just a few minutes, allowing them to just get that little crisp around the edge. All right, so I'm gonna give these guys a try without burning my face off. Here we go. Oh man. Lots of bacon, lots of good butter. I can taste that in it. And the cheese, really good. Hope you go make some. Bye for now. Before I forget, which I almost did, I have a recipe share for you if you would like. In the description, you're going to find a link that will take you to just give us your first name and your email address so I know who to send it to. And I will happily include you in our recipe share. So every week you get one of these recipes in your inbox along with the video edited for you each week, ideally on Fridays. That's my goal. Definitely by Saturdays. Okay. Bye for now. Well, what do you know? When we're doing recipes, we sometimes see that there are mistakes. This is why I do this. I have baking soda in the ingredients and baking powder in the actual instructions. Ooh, now this is where my chemistry needs to come in. Baking powder versus baking soda. I think I'm supposed to use baking powder, not baking soda. Let me see if I have baking powder. Please hold. Is it water or is it something else? All right. Oh, these are going to be so good. I'm excited. Oops, I did not get a trivet. Would you mind giving me a trivet? Thank you. Yeah, just one's back. Perfect. Yeah, they are really hot. I do not want to try to eat those. Whew. Yeah, give that a minute. To get in on the good stuff. Oh, there you go. Yes, get them for sure. Mija. Too cute. Billy, we're gonna make you a YouTube star. Mm-hmm. What are you doing, Dad?